slippery cage, Sean Strickland somehow, focusing on being happy, and the judges not appreciating a game plan, these are the reasons why Rose Namajunas apparently lost, according to Pat Barry. Pat Barry came out on the MMA Hour and said some wild things as to why Rose lost the fight and what exactly happened in there. Pat Barry's been the subject of criticism. He almost has as much criticism, maybe even more, than what Rose Namajunas has. It was really Trevor Whitman that didn't have as much because even though his cornering was not that good, he didn't get his point across well, he at least had the right instructions of what Rose had to do in the fight, where Pat Barry was contradicting him, and the time that Trevor Whitman tried to take control back was in between the 4th and 5th rounds, where he was like, forget the game plan, let's get out there and just do your thing, but all the way up until that, Pat Barry thought that the fight was going well for Rose. And they came out and talked about what the game plan was all about. Their game plan revolved around getting Carla to get out of her comfort zone so she can fall into that trap. They didn't want Rose to get too aggressive and fall into the takedown. This is what Rose was saying, this is what Pat Barry was saying, and Pat was also saying that they were trying to have the crowd boo enough to throw Carla off her game and get her aggressive. And this was even reassured in the fight when you go in between the 3rd and 4th rounds, you can hear Pat telling Rose, you hear the boos? That's right, you're doing right, you're fighting smart, keep doing what you're doing. Little did they know they were losing the fight, mainly because Carla Esparza was at least the one moving forward. Rose thought she landed more strikes than she actually did, and that was the issue there. It's hard for a fighter to judge the fight when they're in there. It's hard for him to actually know who's winning on the scorecards, even if it's as slow of a fight as that was, where the adrenaline isn't even rushing anymore, where they could think clearly. It's still hard for them to actually know who's winning the rounds, so they need the corner to tell them certain things. And when the corner is reinforcing that they are winning when they are in fact losing the fight, they're just gonna be surprised when the scorecards are getting red. So that was the first weird thing, thinking that the crowd booing the fight would get Carla to lose composure. And it's funny because Carla's corner was telling her the same thing. The other thing here was, he was saying that Rose was slipping all over the octagon, and it was true. She was slipping a bunch, mainly twice in the fight that you can actually notice it. But Pat's saying that the punches that she threw when she slipped were the shots that were going to knock out Carla Esparza. And because Rose slipped, he thought that it was over. He thought like the world was working against Rose because those were the punches that were going to end the fight, meaning that something is not allowing Rose to win the fight. He was saying those were the kill shots. Everything would have been perfect if she didn't slip. Well, let's analyze this. Did those slips in fact ruin any kind of chance that she had to finish Carla and turn around this criticism? The first time she slipped, she was throwing a lead left uppercut, getting under Carla's jab, so she was slipping on the inside of the jab and wanted to come up the center on the inside with that left uppercut. This is actually something you see Conor McGregor do to some people. The punch was fast, it definitely had some power in it, but no, the slip didn't mess anything up. She slipped after she stepped. The punch met the target once she stepped, so she slipped after it. And what you notice here was Carla parried the punch. She defended the punch. It was not going to land on her. So that was the first one. No, that was not the kill shot. That was not the shot that was going to end the fight. Because even if Rose didn't slip, the punch got defended. Now this second one, she actually slipped while she was throwing it. She was coming and trying to parry the lead hand, open up space for her to land her right straight down the center. And when she stepped, she actually slipped forward. Her whole body is moving forward before she was throwing the right hand. And what that actually does is it makes her get closer to Carla. She's slipping forward before throwing the right straight. So she's actually getting closer to land the right hand as she's slipping. Of course, it's going to take power away, but the punch being fully extended is actually going to reach greater distances. And it still wasn't enough to catch Carla. It still was too short, and Carla also parried it. If Rose did not slip forward, if she stayed where she stepped, she would have been out of range to connect with the right hand. So no, this also was not the kill shot. Nothing Rose did in the fight was going to finish Carla Esparza unless she completely changed the way she was fighting, but in the meantime, Carla was not easy to hit for her. So to actually say that if Rose was more aggressive and she was going out there and doing her thing, that she would have won the fight, that's not even a given. Because it was in fact that when she moved forward, Carla was looking to take her to the ground, and she did a couple times because of that. And the other thing was, Rose's punches were missing when she was throwing them. Many of them were. It was really in like exchanges on the feet when she was standing up that she was able to connect on Carla. Everywhere else from a distance, it was actually pretty difficult for her because Carla's defense is actually pretty nice compared to some of her previous fights. What needed to be done was not to be this defensive with her striking to stay away. What needed to be done was completely change what she was doing. She needed better game planning. She needed a better tactic. Getting reckless and being defensive are two extremes of a game plan that are both not going to get you the victory here. So the game plan about the booing didn't work. The slipping didn't take away any kind of potential knockout. The other thing Pat Barry said was that it's his job to, yes, have Rose win the fight, but it's also his job as her partner to have longevity and happiness. What? Pat Barry said, and quote, "As a coach, yes, we are there to win fights. but we're really there for longevity and happiness. That's what my job is, man, not only as a coach, but as a partner. That's my job, that Rose is happy and safe for the rest of her life. Unquote. Yikes. No disrespect to Pat Barry, but that is not what a fighter needs in the corner. They don't need somebody that's thinking about their happiness in the middle of a fight. That's only someone that can create distractions for them. They have to be focused on winning. They're there to win. They're not there to be happy. They're not there to have longevity. It's a fight. They're there for the moment. If I was a fighter, I would never want someone in the corner like that. Ever. If I was coaching someone, I would never want another coach telling them that kind of garbage. Why not just have your mom in the corner? There's no one in the world that'll do a better job of wanting you to be happy and have longevity of not getting hurt out there like your mom. So why doesn't every fighter get their mom in the corner? This is why I say a lot of times having a family member or having a loved one in your corner can actually hurt a fighter. Sometimes it can give a motivation. But in this case, it probably seemed to have hurt Rose. If that's what Perry was looking for. If he was looking for happiness in between rounds for Rose, if he was looking to not have her get hurt, because he did mention that he didn't want her to do something crazy and get herself hurt and get herself finished, get herself taken down and get beat up. He talked about if he had Rose get aggressive, that she would have been taken to the ground, crucifixed, and then elbowed. That is not what you need in a corner. What you need in a corner are people there that are solely focused on you winning the fight and when you had enough. That's who you need in your corner. You need someone who knows how to win, knows how to change game plans, knows how to adjust in the fight, focus only on winning, and if you're getting beat up out there and your corner knows you can't take more than this, they know to throw in the towel. That's an extremely underrated coach that a lot of fighters don't have these days. There's been many times where fighters have been destroyed out there and needed someone to save them. Like Tony Ferguson's coaches when he fought Justin Gaethje. Whether he would have been upset after the fact or not, they should have thrown in the towel right after the third, maybe even after the fourth round. But Rose wasn't anywhere near that. Carla only landed 30 strikes in the whole fight and none of them were that meaningful. She wasn't on death's door or something. So this happiness and longevity thing it seemed like out of fear from her partner. Her fiance did not want her to get hurt out there. I know he wanted Rose to win, but if you're also thinking about her happiness and longevity in a fight that really needs some tactical adjustments, I believe he really needs to adjust that whole mindset there, because you can't get into fights, corner a fighter thinking, I'm trying not to get my fighter hurt out here. If they're gonna get hurt, they're gonna get hurt. They need to win the fight. If they get touched up a little bit, if they get elbowed, they get punched in the face, as long as they're not getting destroyed and it looks like they're helpless, they need to win the fight. That's the kind of corner you need, and that's what Trevor Whitman is. Trevor Whitman's out there to make sure that they're winning a fight. But it seemed like Pat Barry, because he's so close to Rose, he couldn't get into that same kind of mindset. And there may be some conspiracies as to why he developed this game plan of being so defensive on the feet and not really doing much, because he potentially didn't want Rose to get hurt. And then the last thing Pat Barry was talking about was Sean Strickland. I don't know how Sean Strickland became a factor in this, but Pat was saying that comments that Sean Strickland was making could be a reason as to why Rose would be emotional in a fight with Carla, and probably why he had to reel her back into a game plan and not have her go crazy out there. There's an article saying that Pat Barry is stating that Sean Strickland is a reason as to why Rose lost the fight. I don't think that's necessarily the case. He was kind of saying that the comments that he was making could impact Rose's mental state. What were those comments? I'm pretty sure you can kind of guess what they are. It's this whole rumor going around, this whole thing going on. I don't really want to talk about it too much, but it has something to do with G-rooming, that whole thing. No, I'm just kidding, because I know a lot of you are probably going to ask me about it, and these are the rumors. I'm not saying these are true. This is just what's stated and just the rumors going around. I'm not saying I believe any of this. I'm not going to get too deep into it, just like the summary of it. The gist of it is a lot of people believe that Pat Barry met Rose when she was like 14 years old, and then one thing led to another. Apparently, he stated, there actually is no quote of him saying this, most of this stuff is actually coming from one article. I think you can find it on Bleacher Report, that it was love at first sight. Rose was part of his gym when she was 14, and he was 28 years old. He's actually 14 years older than her, and it also states that Pat Barry had to wear her down, and Namajunas did not feel the same way about him until later. And by 2014, when Rose was 22 years old, Pat Barry said that they've been dating for more than 5 years. And then she says, no, like more like 2 or 3. If he recalls 5 years, that's when she was like 17, even 16 years old, and definitely in high school. And by that time, he's like 30 years old. Rose later on went and said that, apparently she was longer with him than she was aware of, and that she didn't have much of a male role model in her life that treated her well. So, okay, it's weird. It's really weird. But I am not one here to say what actually happened here. This is just what is going around. And that's what Sean Strickland was talking about. And apparently, these kind of comments can have an effect on Rose. Well, here's the problem. Rose is a public figure. She's famous. A lot of people know her. She has, millions of followers on Instagram alone. if you can't handle public scrutiny, if you can't handle opinions like this, or even people talk about your private life if you bring it out there, you should not be a public figure. It's not easy. It's a skill in itself. It's kind of a mental strength you have to develop in itself. And I think they're doing a good job at that. I think they're doing a good job at brushing aside all that stuff. I have no opinion on it until we know the actual facts of it. And I just want to stay away from that. But yeah, these are the comments that Pat Barry made about the fight with Rose versus Carla. Rose is for sure going to be back. She's still one of the most talented fighters we've ever seen, and definitely can compete with everybody in this division. I mean, she beat Zhang Weili and Joanna twice already. The only one she has to get past really is Carla Esparza. Now, there are younger fighters coming up like Marina Rodriguez, Mackenzie Dern, with seemingly Joanna versus Zhang Weili being the next in line for a title shot. It looks like Rose will probably have to have one more fight, one more win, maybe against a Rodriguez, maybe against a Dern, two fighters she's never fought before, to get back at that title shot and attempt to be a 3-time champion.